Hello again, everyone. This is Jeff Adler. Continuing my video series, Why I'm Right 2.0. How you doing? Um, Today I want to talk about the ever-increasing lunacy of the left and what we've experienced with them since Trump came down the escalators back in June of 2015. We've talked about Trump a little bit and why the left caused him to exist. He's a symptom of their shenanigans, not ours, and a thing that, or a president that has come out of need instead of desire. But we've also touched on many times what the left has been doing and the craziness that they've been throwing out at us, all the while trying to make it seem like us right-wingers and conservatives are somehow to blame. We're the ones gone crazy with the alt-right and the fascism and the neo-Nazis and the white supremacy and all this other crap, which we've had in previous videos, proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, studies done by many people, authors like Peter Schweitzer and Dinesh D'Souza and Jonah Goldberg, that shows that the fascism and is a left-wing ideology, all stemming from Marxism, just like socialism and communism does. We've shown without a shadow of a doubt that many of these leaders of Antifa and the white supremacist movements, they use fascist tactics while pretending to be anti-fascist. However, they are quite pro-communist. When you ask them questions about how they think things should work, they are quite pro-socialist in many ways and quite sympathetic to socialist ideas and socialist values and socialist tactics. And they're not right-wing in any way. And on top of all that, of course, no right-winger who is sane, no true conservative, no right-thinking American would ever endorse, embrace, or excuse the actions of anybody who is in a doing wrong, who is in a white supremacy group or a neo-Nazi group. We marginalize them, we cast them out, we say, you are not one of us. You can call yourself right because you're an ignorant bunch of asswipes, but you're not right-wing. You don't do anything that's right-wing. You don't think like a right-winger. You don't do the things a right-winger would do or not do. And so, but that's not enough for the left. They want to make sure that we all think that they are all on our side of the political spectrum, so they don't have to take responsibility for them. And actually, they're the reason they exist in the first place. They are a continuation of the Ku Klux Klan. They're a continuation of the left-wing fascist, socialist, political ideology that comes down from Marx and Engels. They are a continuation of this, the segregational policies that the Democrats, and only the Democrats historically, used to embrace, and on and on and on. There is no tie to the right other than the word they made up to describe them, alt-right. What they really are is just more of the left. But I digress. So what we want to talk about today is try to compile, it's by no means a complete list. I mean, by no means is this a complete list. But just gather all the anecdotal evidence of what the left has done and what they've been doing and saying and how they've been acting for the last 4.5 years since Trump and Melania came down the escalator. And you decide, who's the crazy ones here? They love that transference, everything that they do. Oh, you're guilty of Russian collusion, when they actually did it. Oh, you're guilty of this racism, when they're actually the racists. You're guilty. They always do this, and the media just follows their lead, or maybe it's the other way around. We don't know these days. And they just throw it out there, and it's repeated in the echo chamber, and everyone, half the country believes this crap. Meanwhile, the left have, which used to be used to marginalize socialism, communism, radicalism, uber progressivism, and just use it now and then to advance an agenda, they could be talked to. They could be reasoned with. There could be bipartisan whatever between the two parties. During the time of Bush, the time of Clinton to some degree, the time of Bush, the first Bush, or Reagan, and going on back, the further back you go, the more this was the case. But something happened during the time of Obama. Obama normalized extremism in the Democrat Party. He allowed the socialists to come in. He allowed the communists to come in, the uber progressives to go, radicals to come in, because he embraced them, because he was one. He allowed the crazies to take over the asylum, and he handed off this nutso government with all these deep state holdovers who were working diligently behind the scenes while Obama was president, doing his bidding, only to have them realize that just in case Trump wins, or becomes the nominee at the very least, let's undermine him, because we're still Democrats and we still run things as unaccountable, unelected, unknown entities throughout government, deep in these departments, who are just assigned by people and hard to fire, and the thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people who work in the government, the largest growing business during the time of Obama in the country, doing all they can to undermine this president from day one and even prior to day one. And with that, we'll start with prior to day one. I'm going to break this down by groups to show you what these particular groups have been doing while we have been in the era of Trump, if you will. And you'll see maybe at the end with just how much I'm laying on you, that maybe some things you don't even remember, and then go, oh yeah, I forgot those idiots had done that, or were doing that, and just try to even compare this exhaustive and by no means complete list of craziness from the left with whatever you think the right has been guilty of in the same time frame. So let's start with the media and what they've been up to. Again, this is just, a few points. I mean, aside from the complete, overwhelming 90+% negative coverage of Trump, these are actual things that have happened. Way back in April 2016, this is half a year before Trump was elected. April 2016. Politico's Daryl Samuelson wrote an article called "Could Trump Be Impeached?" shortly after he takes office. For any idiot out there who thinks that the members of the House, for instance, who got elected in 2018 and took over the House, were begrudgingly wanting to impeach Trump, that they didn't really want to do this, that Trump made them do this, that he impeached himself. Just remember, the left has been talking about impeaching him from the day he became the nominee, or the presumptive nominee, of the Republican Party in April 2016. They wrote articles about it. Prior to an NBC presidential debate, the question, at least one, was given to Donna Brazile, who was Hillary's chief of staff or whatever, by the network. The moderator, Lester Holt, also saw to it that he needed to interrupt Trump 41 different times and only interrupted Hillary 7 times in the same debate. So the media, as moderators, became the arbiters of winners and losers as best they could possibly do. And that's, of course, just NBC. Similar things happened on CNN. Similar thing happened on CBS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The media had a total meltdown. They had ditched all fairness and objectivity once Trump became president. They have never given him the benefit of the doubt. They have never given him the grace period, the 100-day grace period that has been traditional for all presidents. They had attacked him from day one. And you have to say to yourself, why? Why was he treated differently? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, of course, he posed the greatest threat of any Republican in recent history. You know, people like Mitt Romney, President Bush, the other President Bush, were somewhat pliable. They were somewhat, manipulable. They were somewhat squishy oftentimes, and could be made to back off. Reagan a little less, and yet at the same time he could be worked out with, because he was friendly and they could tolerate him at a certain degree personally, if not professionally. He got some kind of breaks, although he, before Trump, was probably the most abused president by the press in history. And of course, we all know what went on with Nixon. He was also quite hated, but he did it to him. In that case, he did do it to himself. But honestly, the press would have at least some modicum of, okay, maybe this part, he didn't do it right, but he did the right thing. He had wanted to do the right thing. He just didn't handle it well. He some begrudging something that they would just, an olive leaf, a half-assed backhanded compliment. Not with Trump. Nothing. He cannot have any wins at all. And if that is the goal with the media and the left and the politicians on the left since day one, and everything they've done has been working towards that goal. Never give him the win. Never admit when it's good. Never admit when it's right. Never admit when it helps the country or people in the country or the safety of the country or the strength of the country or anything. All objectivity gone. 24/7, 365, coordinated, hate-filled personal attacks against Donald Trump and his entire family. They went after his wife, they went after his sons, they went after his daughter, they went after their wives and husbands, they went after his young son. There's been nothing off the table with these guys. There's been no taboo they would not demolish, no line they wouldn't cross to try to get at this man. Creating a media echo chamber, bouncing off this chasm they've created between the left and the right as the left keeps moving to the left more and more. And is creating this chasm where everything at the media and the Hollywood is bouncing off the walls and creating this echo chamber where everyone repeats the same thing over and over again about how horrible Trump is, and making people believe it as much as they can, regurgitating all the DNC talking points on a daily, regular basis. It's by no shock to anyone that if you go from channel to channel to channel, from show to show to show on CNN, MSN, NBC, on the networks, they say the same thing on the same day about the same subject, almost verbatim. Because why? Echo chamber. There's nothing original in their heads. They just repeat the same thing over and over and try to make it stick. Stick to who? Stick to Trump. They lied about the events in D.C. regarding the context of kids, the media did, from Covington, Kentucky, the Catholic school, where Nicholas Sandmann was wearing his MAGA hat, which he had just bought in D.C. with a number of his friends, and they were on the steps of some memorial, I forget which one, and here comes, black Israelites shouting epithets at them, and here comes, that Indian guy whose name I can't remember, who came up to Nicholas Sandmann. Sandmann didn't approach him, but the media lied. They said that they were throwing insults back and forth with the black Israelites. That said that Nicholas Sandmann came up to the Indians slamming on his drum. Video proving otherwise. So they doctored the video, as we've talked about in previous one of my videos. And that's just one example of the media who has taken any political event and taken it out of context and contorted and edited it for their own purposes, just to prove it's Trump's fault. And all the violence, all the confrontation, all the problems stem from Trump. When they cannot look themselves in the mirror and say, you're the reason, you, the media person, that looking at me back in the mirror is why this whole country is all on eggshells and all divisive and polarized and all the rest. Because they've been stirring the pot like a bunch of shit stirrers, trying to get as many people to believe Trump is a piece of crap as they possibly can. So the media, as we've talked about many times, and in my video, journalism is RIP, rest in peace journalism, this has been their modus operandi for 4.5 years plus. Let's talk about some of the politicians and what they've been up to. In fact, we'll do that in part 2, which we will, where we will talk about that and some other things. All right, we'll see you in part 2.